of the party.
So hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel City Podcast. Who knows what episode this is, but
It's 131. There we go.
there we go. Matt's on it.
I remember the nice round number for the last time.
131 episodes. Pretty fucking crazy, actually.
Aye.
Here, people like coming in.
And this one was only 3 weeks since the last one, so like we're doing for 2 months to 3 weeks now. Next one we'll have about a fortnight.
Aye.
we're dialing it in. We're definitely dialing it in.
We're laser focused on that weekly episode, aren't we?
I actually changed the tagline on Twitter.
You get nothing coming for your mic?
Don't think so. Well, maybe it is.
Yeah, definitely. It's just because it's not so close. So me and Matt will be like way louder.
Yeah, of course.
Just pull it in, and then you can move it a bit. Anyway, I like podcasts when they do that shit, but I see people coming in here and they're like, wow, man, episode 20. And I'm just like, bitch, I'm on 130. But I think we should...
You stroke your beard.
I know.
Thoughtfully.
I think we should just fucking gun it to 200. Let's get to 200 episodes.
Well, we need to do more than the 10 we did last year, so this is 2 in 3 months, so we're getting there.
2 in 2 months. Did one in January, this is February. This will be in March.
Oh, it is February, isn't it? Sorry, I don't even know what fucking month it is. That's probably part of the problem. I think obviously, like, since we last caught up, like, the big news is the resignation of like Nicola Sturgeon, and like the kind of riot that has ensued since, by the all accounts. I was quite surprised. I mean, I know there had been people like murmuring in the background, and there was a few other, like, I think Conter and stuff like that, like we called this weeks ago, and you know, like, fair play or whatever. But it was in the ether for a while. I hadn't necessarily taken it very seriously, to be honest with you. She looked quite comfortable to me, and then obviously, like, that morning the news broke, and it was like, I stopped what I was doing. Like, I was working for him, and was like, you know, laptop, I'm taking a break now, you know what I mean, to be kind of like, what the fuck's this? You know what I mean? Like, so it was a bit of a shock to me, I've got to be honest with you, as much as we'd heard like rumours that it might be in the offing, you know what I mean?
Same. I mean, it stopped me. I think, like, I wasn't as shocked. I think, see, when people start coming out and going like, I'm not resigning, you're like, start the clock. Fucking hell, you know what I mean? It's like the vote of confidence for the board of directors and a football manager. Or when Gerrard came out and was like, basically like,
They look
unhappy, like, I'm here, and you're like, Brendan Rodgers did it. They all did it, didn't they? They're like, as soon as they're chatting about it, but it was akin, like, see, the last time something happened like that, it was Michael Jackson dying. I got like 4 text messages, and I was like, what the fuck's happened to you? And it was like, Nicola's fucking
my
resigned.
group chat's all lit up. The missus was on the phone, like, Alex came in for the room, she was at college, and like, Nicola Sturgeon resigned. I'm like, I've never heard you, I didn't even think you knew who Nicola Sturgeon was, never mind was conscious of the fact that, you know, she was or wasn't resigning, you know what I mean? Like, so it was quite a shock to a lot of folk, and clearly like a big deal as well, you know what I mean? Like, she's been there best part of a decade, you know, at the sort of head of the party, and other guys is in roles for another decade beyond that again. Like, you know, I listened to it. It was very, it was reminiscent of like Jacinta Ardern. So when Jacinta Ardern, the Prime Minister in New Zealand, recently resigned, and she was like, you know, I don't want to hold on to power for power's sake. You know, I've run out of gas here. Like, I'm at the limit of what I can realistically expect to achieve. It's, you know, time to sort of bow out gracefully. So there were a lot of echoes of that. I felt, I don't know if maybe like Sturgeon has been playing about with it for a while and wondering how she gets out, and then, you know, sees Arden and, you know, the plaudits that she took for like kind of gracefully letting go of the reins. And then I think maybe she's had one look at it and go, do you know what? I think that's what I'm going to try and swing for.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because I think my instant thought was like, what's happened? What we're about to hear? Something terrible's coming out about something, you know?
I think the way it broke, I was like, what the fuck? Because this is very sudden. But it turns out that the rumours and the sort of scuttlebutt that was out there was pretty much bang on. Like, and when I listened to her do the you know, the kind of resignation speech, I didn't have any reason to doubt anything that she said. You know what I mean? Like, that it wasn't about minor squabbles or, you know, stuff that's going on in and out the party at the minute. It was just that she's just done. She actually sounded to me like somebody who was just scunnered and was just fed up and wanted it. You know what I mean? Like, she was obviously a bit more graceful about it than that, but the basic gist I took away for the whole sort of speech was that that's plenty.
Aye, that's been it. I mean, I think like, I mean, Dave, were you shocked? Like, were you expecting something?
I definitely wasn't expecting anything. I mean, my grasp of Scottish politics is decent, but not anywhere. I don't follow it as closely as you guys, I don't think.
Yeah.
Either. But obviously, when it broke, I was pretty fucking surprised. I mean, I thought she was, like you say, in a very stable position, but when you kind of think about it in hindsight, like there's talk about a second referendum and stuff, but it doesn't feel like it. Although they're saying the numbers were good at the time, it doesn't feel like it would have been a very strong push for it. So it kind of feels like a bit of it should be taking backward steps, really. So if you don't feel like you can take those additional steps forward to get it over the line, and that's your objective, that's your aim, then what do you do at that point?
I don't think she sounded hugely keen on this de facto referendum in the next general election. I think somewhere in the back of her mind, she's definitely maybe thought to herself, like, I can't back this, so I'm kind of like, know the person to take it forward, because the options for Scotland to exercise its right to leave the Union are narrowing, by the day. Like the notion that we're going to call a referendum in the next year or two and be successful and know it get bogged down in some sort of legal quagmire it's no realistic. And I think, one of the candidates, Humza Yousaf, said pretty much the same himself. Like, we're going to have to like regroup, re-strategize, and essentially go again with like a new sort of freshness to the party. And you're like, well, that all makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I don't think that's what we've seen since, though. You know what I mean? Like, I think Sturgeon is, I mean, one of the most capable sort of heavyweight politicians that, we'll see in Scotland for a very long time. You know what I mean? Like,
man, I mean, the track record is, I mean, like, just to sort of gloss over it, like, whether or no you agree with anything or everything that the SNP have done in government, like, I certainly, we've been vocal. We've been vocal on this about the certain things that we don't agree with, and that's fine. But as a politician, our track record is absolutely fucking stellar. I mean, she won like eight year in power, always in a majority in a system that's not supposed to get in a majority other than one election. Outside out of 3, was it? Like, she
they've had to work in coalition a fair bit to have a pro-Indie majority throughout the years. They did win one majority, right? But obviously it's been minority government largely, way like held elsewhere and stuff. And I think
like on terms of being a politician, and we're not any fans of being a politician and politicking, as much as we talk a lot about politics, but I think she's as capable a leader as even the UK have seen. Probably until other than like pre-Iraq war Tony Blair or something. Do you know what I mean?
Our polling numbers were always significantly north of anybody else in the UK. And the mad rabid unionists that were like dancing in George Square like they'd actually won something. Like I mean, you never put a glove on this woman in her entire fucking political career, and there was like whatever 67 of them dancing with their Union Jacks in George Square like they'd won something. But it's because she's been so effective, it's because she's been so successful and so consistent that these people who hate her just because they want to break up their precious union are like, fucking yes. You know what I mean? Like, that is probably the biggest compliment that any of them could have ever paid her, was out there dancing in the street the minute she left, because they kind of dent with themselves. You know what I mean?
Like, they kind of beat her.
It was a weird one where you're like, yes, she's fucking gone, the witch is dead. And you're like, she has left this country in a significantly better state than she left it in. There are definitely still issues, but a lot of the social programmes and, the various sort of welfare things that they've done, they've all been positive. Prescriptions, bus passes, fucking university. You know what I mean? There's like tangible things that have changed throughout her leadership before and after before and during, that Scotland is better for, whether people like her or not. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't think she's going to go anywhere. I think she'll be a a fairly sort of visible party
Right.
elder. She
Think
said
she's-
as much herself that there was still things that she wanted to campaign on.
Right. Do you think she'll still run for MSP or?
Oh, aye. No, she's
Right.
like, still has like an agenda. I think what you'll see, given that she was so centralised in her control of the party, is almost like the way Americans look at, well, usually look at ex-presidents, where they go to the office, but they still have like an agenda for change, for charity work, for whatever it is that their access to the White House still allows for, support of. And I think you'll probably see Nicola Sturgeon try to like, work in that kind of area where, if she's gone to the party, like, I want this, there's going to be an expectation that they do their best to work with her on it, because she's, still fighting a good fight, but obviously, taking that kind of step back for the front line.
The best reaction I seen on, I mean, anybody that was pure, wee nippy's gone or anything like that was just like, black, away you go, fuck off. But seen somebody on, it was an Instagram story where the guy was like, another member of the Illuminati gone. And you're like, are you serious, man? Are you actually fucking serious? You think that Nicola Sturgeon's a member of the fucking Illuminati? Like, Jesus fucking Christ. There was loads of people's pure, another Nazi, another, and you're like, come on to fuck. Like,
There's people who don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about.
You're always going to get that. Though, aren't you?
Aye.
My question is, though, what's next? Because for someone that doesn't follow it so closely, I don't know any strong enough characters that I would say this is definitely the succession plan. So what is the
I've
succession
kind of tweeted
plan?
something similar, like, on the day, and being like, looking around the party, there wasn't anybody that immediately came to my mind. I think the candidates that we've got, and we'll obviously get to them in a wee bit, pretty underwhelming, if we're honest. And some of the campaigning already has been, for me, catastrophic in certain respects. You know what I mean? Like, and
all the strong and obvious ones are in Westminster, are in like the Westminster Army, that like
think
Mary Black or
she's
Angus
it's a bit early
Robertson.
for Mary Black. I think I would have loved to have seen somebody of that ilk like step forward in the party, but it seems as though the Tartan Tory element of the SNP, the conservative sort of social conservatives that are within the party, are seeing opportunities to step forward and into sort of positions of power. We've obviously got Ash Regan, who is talking the talk of unification, whilst working with guys who were and are part of the Alba party. So that one seems a bit odd to me. She resigned from a cabinet position in protest at the GRR bill. So, and already has the backing of people like Joanna Cherry and stuff like that. So for me, I mean, I know very little about her.
Right.
She's talked a good game so far, but largely I don't think I'm going to agree with a lot of her policies based on the very little that I do know about her so
There's
far.
like a power vacuum in the SNP as a party. I suppose like it might be kind of like when Cameron, I mean, not that Cameron could ever lay a glove on Nicola Sturgeon, right? But when Cameron left the Tories, it was like there was a vacuum left, and it became the battle between, is there a left? I hate that fucking left. The left, fuck off, man. But anyway, let's just say the left, or the centre right and the right of the Tory party, and the far right kind of won it. So it's kind of like in the background, we're going to need to see who wins that sort of battle. Yeah, to see who becomes the
obviously
the
the man that's gathered all the headlines is Kate Forbes, and I think the conversation around that this week was just horrible in a lot of senses. I get, and I'm not going to slate anybody for having faith, right, of any denomination. That's your business. It's no for me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that I was kind of saying it like, I get when I was younger that my parents used religion as a useful tool to like teach me like morality and stuff as a young child, and that's essentially what the Bible is. It's a book of parables that are morality stories that are intended to influence as you grow up. But for me, those lessons were learned at a young age, and I don't have the same sort of use for them in my day-to-day life as an adult, and I kind of do struggle to connect with people that do. I don't know where either rationality comes in for it. So to find that and we get it a lot in America. We've talked about it recently. We're starting to see more and more it creep in here in the UK, particularly in Scotland in recent weeks, around gender recognition and now abortion and various other things like bans on conversion therapy. These are all progressive policies that I think we were all happy that the SNP Green government were in the process of sort of pursuing. There's been setbacks as there was with Westminster and stuff, but I felt like we were on the right path to address these sort of social issues that really should be part of like a bygone age. You know what I mean? Like the notion that you can pray the gay away or any of these other things, that they're talking about conversion therapy is it's almost like a form of torture for some people. You know what I mean? Like, so
it's like brainwashing,
that
isn't
we
it?
were going to then have a leader who may not agree or may not be as incentivized to address these issues, just doesn't sit with me particularly well in that respect. And that's no a dig at anybody's faith. Like, have whatever faith you want, but there are politicians out there. I think somebody like to an extent like Joe Biden does a really good job at being a really obviously devout sort of Catholic, but he's got a line that he uses to separate the policy and the person in those moments. And I think there's other leaders that have done it themselves, like so it's not about attacking the faith. Like, they can believe whatever they want, but there needs to be like a kind of separation. And when the candidates come out and say, I wouldn't have voted for this, I wouldn't have voted for that, then why would we entrust them to bring forward this legislation in future that we clearly want? But then it became about abusing faith, and I mean, it just got so silly, like where there was a clear and obvious, multiple quotes, multiple interviews. She doubled down on it. She refused to roll any of it back, time and time again. And you're like, well, do you know what? I appreciate her honesty. Like, I do. I don't think there's any complaints about how she does her job or what kind of calibre of MSP she's been or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like, so, she's got a right to be in the conversation as a leader. Like, the people have spoke about her previously as a future leader of the party. But I need to know that these views, she talks a good game again, but I need to know that the views that wouldn't have allowed her to vote for these things will not stop her letting her government bring forward the legislation that people want.
Do you think that we're moving? So, like, even if you go back, in America, even the Trump election, he was bringing in his full faith as a sort of like tool to get him elected, right? Talking about how he's a Christian when the guy's never fucking had a like a Christian thought in his fucking life, you know what I mean?
No.
But do you think we're moving in the opposite direction now, where people who come out and they're like, for instance, like, I'm a practicing Catholic and I believe in, whatever it says in the Bible, I believe word for word the Bible. It's not like a moral tool that's going to stop them getting elected now, whereas in the past it was kind of like the enabler. Like, do you know what I mean?
Aye, so in America you essentially need to like display your faith, even though the country was founded to give people freedom for that. And in this country, it has historically been that type of like expression of faith was more of a turn off than it sort of currently appears to be for some at the moment, because the latest polling after, and Kate Forbes' first week is again just been a total disaster. I honestly don't know why anybody has not said to her, look, man, you fuck this, wrap it up. You know what I mean? Like, but then the other two options, like, we've got Hamza Yousaf, who again, you're pure, that meme, the worst person made a good point. You ever say it's like somebody just being pure raging? That's kind of how I feel about some of the criticism of Yousaf, where as Justice Secretary, like, offensive behaviour was one of those things that, the Football Act that we disagreed with.
Right, was he in sort of charge of that? Right, okay. Yeah. I don't know particularly much about him other than
he's not got a great. He's been about, but he's not got a great track record.
Right,
if we're honest, you know what I mean. Like, he's the continuity candidate in the sense that he's an established figure within the party. He has instant sort of recognition in the country. He's obviously worked a number of remits, as I say. The health secretary one, we're coming out of the pandemic, every healthcare service in the world has taken an absolute tanking in the last 2 to 3 years. So there is context for some of the struggles he's had, but there's also been like glaring mistakes. His record's, let's say, a bit hit and miss, to be honest with you, in terms of like delivery. But he is a charismatic guy who has a lot of votes and has, kind of said on these progressive issues that are like red lines for a lot of people, that he'll vote the way people expect him to vote as a member of the SNP. Obviously, some of these, more fringe people at the SNP, the Alba types, have said that he deliberately set up a meeting to avoid voting on marriage equality, whatever it was, 5-6 years ago, which he obviously denies. He'd voted for it at earlier stages, says he was negotiating or...
like pay deals or whatever?
No, it was a Scottish citizen on death row in India, who he was trying to negotiate some sort of either the release or repatriation, like bring him back to serve his sentence here or whatever it was. That couldn't be moved, and people are saying, well, you booked that 3 weeks in advance, knowing when the vote was and whatever. It's all new. He said because they're trying to tar Yousaf with the same brush that Kate Forbes is kind of like tarred herself
with Kate Forbes. It's direct quotes and
she did it herself.
And with Yousaf, it's more like hearsay and shit slinging and
so
assuming like the fucking
the shit slinging you're talking about is quite interesting because in like sort of general political discourse, it's like the Muslim Council of the UK or something like that.
No,
so it's just a kind of like a union basically for Muslims around the country to petition government on issues that are relevant to Muslims.
Right. Okay.
Right? They are one of these guys. Like every a main story comes out about something to do with the Muslim faith. These are the guys that the BBC go to and get a quote.
Right.
I mean, but when Yousaf announced his candidacy, something like it worded very similarly, right? But it wasn't with the Muslim Council UK. It was like, I don't know. I can't remember the exact word in it, but it was like dangerously similar, but not exactly the same thing. So somebody was trying to give the impression that they were the UK Muslim Council,
right?
When they weren't there, and they were like trashing Yousaf's record. And there's like allegations that it's come from people within like the Alba party and stuff like that. So it's like where somebody involved is like a mate or somebody who's like quite high up in Alba. And
right.
So again, it's all allegations and stuff. They know, but it seems as though there's been some dirty tricks in play potentially by the same people who are like, let's all have unity. I'm the unity candidate. I want everybody to come in one big tent, but like, no, you. You know what I mean? And I know the GRR bill and stuff like that. And you get 2 of the 3 candidates saying they would not go back to the UK government and be like, you don't have a right to swat down our laws whenever you feel like it. So again, I'm like, well, if you're not going to actually go and defend the rights of Scottish democracy, then I don't think you're the right person for it. You know what I mean? Like, might be capable politicians, might be capable ministers and stuff like that, but
unless
we're in a place where there are things that we all expect, and like I'm already looking at it this week and being like, so I'm just going to vote for the Greens going forward. You know what I mean? Because I think the candidates were underwhelming. I think so far the campaigns have been a shambles. I think the infighting has been really unattractive, and it's just it's kind of looking a bit just shoddy and just unprofessional at the minute. You know what I mean? Like for being so polished and controlled under Nicola Sturgeon, to the minute she says she's gone, it was just
everything's collapsed. I mean, we spoke about it and we've said many times that if independence was a reality and it did get voted in, then you would expect the SNP to dissolve and splinter off into these splinter groups and into these and it looks like that is what's happening now. You know what I mean? And like her resignation has triggered this sort of splintering of the party.
Yeah.
But see if that, I'm like, that could be a good thing. I think if we get like a sort of, like you're saying, like a pro-independence like sort of coalition, which we've had. But see if it leaves it open and the Tories and Scottish Labour are the ones that make the gains, man. It's done. Like it's deed in the water, isn't it?
So you'd expect Scottish Labour to make the biggest gains at the minute because they're on the way to a Westminster landslide. I mean, it's the biggest open goal in history. Like they're going to absolutely trounce the Tories at the next election. They're saying that they can't even find safe seats for a lot of the current cabinet to drop them into. Like Braverman's one of them, where they're like, she's so toxic, it's not going to matter where we put her, she's getting fucking binned. You know what I mean? Like, so there's been talking the last few days about where they're trying to essentially parachute these incompetent clowns into in the hope that they keep their job somewhere. And like the electoral map in England,
it's like
is so toxic for them that there's just basically nowhere that's guaranteed to be safe for them.
How can a party that has actually redrew the lines so that they can't lose seats, so that they don't lose
gerrymandered
seats,
the entire system and still going to fuck it?
Still, it looks like they're done. Like they're literally like. I mean, the last poll that I've seen, it was like third biggest party. Like before she had resigned.
Before Sturgeon resigned, we were talking about the SNP being the official
second biggest party,
and only having like whatever 40, 50 seats. You know what I mean? Like, so
unfortunately, this seems to have gave Starmer the green light to be like, oh, but by the way, when I get in, we're not going to be spending more money. We're going to be like doing the same shit. I mean,
he's pretty much told everybody that. And again, I'm not even sure what to believe him, because he lied when he was working for Corbyn. He lied when he was putting the knife in Corbyn and taking it off from him. He's lied about all his pledges to the people who voted him in, and is now making more pledges this week that, again, only worth a fuck. Like, he literally just has to keep breathing until the next election, and he's going to win it. You know what I mean? Like, so, I wouldn't trust anything he says. It's all just PR. It's just all like image. You know what I mean? He's out there trying to, like, you know, meeting Zelensky and all that kind of stuff last week. He's out there trying to look prime ministerial. You know what I mean? Like, so, he's already shown that you can't trust a single word that he says. So I just don't even listen to him anymore. You know what I mean? Like, but as I say, in Scotland, you know, a Labour landslide at a UK level is obviously going to have people voting for Labour more in Scotland. You know, I don't see the Tories necessarily benefiting too much from it, because their sort of boogeyman is now gone, and it's Labour voters that have went Tory purely on the basis of the union that have been propping them up anyway. So if an active and sort of viable Labour sort of landslide is in play, you would expect those Labour voters to go back to Labour in Scotland. And in terms of the SNP and independents, if it looks like it is at the minute, where it's going to go into the long grass for a bit, like a lot of the sort of pro-indie people that came across for the Labour Party, which is as much as like 40% in Scotland, you know what I mean? Like, you would expect them also probably to go back until, you know, independence is meaningfully back on the cards. Whether that actually translates into any seats or no is another thing, because they're at such a low ebb in Scotland that I think they were saying that every they were doing, I read an article, it was percentages, and like every Scottish seat was like worth just such a nominally low percentage of the electorate that it's never mattered. The notion that it does is a nonsense, you know what I mean? Like, but as I say, these people, I would expect, unless somebody steps forward and really takes control of like the leadership campaign and then gets after like a good start as leader, I think these sort of small changes in the short term are natural. But I think, you know, the people who were into independence, when that comes back around again, I would expect them to at least be interested in voting, you know, for the independent side of things. Like, it would, for me, take Keir Starmer coming in and like, I mean, the radical change that would need to be seen under his tenure for Scotland to not want to go independent on the scale that it has done in the last decade would need to be just astronomical.
It's it need to be like Corbyn level change, and that's been rejected in and out of the Labour Party in England. So it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? And it would need to be like UBI and social housing for everybody, and you know, radical change. And he's not a radical politician.
No, he's not.
You know what I mean?
But as I say, in the short term, I would expect the only people who meaningfully benefit in Scotland politically to be the Labour Party.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
wait, Dave, half an hour?
Half an hour.
Right. So spend half an hour talking about that and catching up on that. So get about another half hour, because we'll try to catch the football. So what was second on the, or what will we talk about next? You want to talk about this train in America?
so this is the chemical spill thing. I did see it. I mean, it was it was everywhere for a few days. Again, it's apparently quite a regular occurrence. It's something that's happened a few times in recent years, and people have just allegedly, again, I don't know. It's one of these things you see on Twitter, and you know, online, and you're like, I mean, it sounds like it might be something that
as far
happens,
as I can make it, under Trump, they changed some of the regulations and laws based on how they transport chemicals via rail and all the sort of checks that they need to put into place on the tracks. And
by change the laws, you mean put them on the bin?
Pretty much, stripped some away.
Deregulating some of them.
Yes, that's it.
But apparently this train didn't come under those regulations. So it was like bringing the commentators who are bringing Trump into it are getting kind of chastised from what I've seen, because the deregulation doesn't actually affect that specific train or anything anyway. So it's just a sort of disconnected thing just to bring Trump back into the conversation.
Right,
and to give someone probably to give the current government someone to try and blame it on, because the fact is, well, from what I've seen on the whole incident, it's largely, it was unreported for a few days. It was about a week before I heard about it, and I was like, "What? This happened 8-9 days ago."
Well, I started seeing stuff on TikTok.
Right.
So I seen people that were there on TikTok, and there was no, like you're saying, there was no coverage, absolutely zero coverage. But in that time, so I watched a guy that was there on YouTube, and he said that everybody got evacuated within a 20-mile radius for 24 hours, but then the government tested the water and was like, right,
you go back.
and you can all go
and
back.
Everybody's pets started dying.
And then everybody started. So you're right. But I think, like, I mean, as far as like, see, this is where I sort of come on it. Like, see, if you want the free market that the Americans clearly want, this is what's going to happen. Because we can go into like blaming Trump or blaming governments or deregulation. These are private businesses that run these fucking railways that are transporting these fucking chemicals. And if they are cutting corners to make more money or save spending money, then if you want it to be open and free and libertarian like, then you need to hold them to account. You can't be going, this is the government's fucking fault. You know what I mean? And when actually,
no rules are bad if those rules stop people from
a fucking business
chemical explosions.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But what happened, like the way that they didn't report it, no news station covered it. That is just, I mean, to say it's not even strange. I was going to say it's strange. It's not strange. This is how they fucking deal with shit now. Like they just black it out until they get a narrative, and then they start going, "Oh, here's what happened." But
well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing with that. The American story that I was following in the last few weeks was the air balloon, and like that had a similar kind of vibe to it, where people spotted this, you know, Chinese spy balloon. It's like whatever. Like you realise that like China has satellites, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're still fucking about with like balloons, spy balloons. You know what I mean? Like,
high altitude
and
balloons.
if they are, it's probably like some form of distraction or whatever. It's just, it was probably a weather balloon, but whatever. It was the Chinese spy balloon, and they were. This was all over the news for like days because they didn't shoot it down because they were like, it's like this shit happens. So it's a weather balloon, like whatever. And then after like 2 or 3 days of coverage, they then shot it down, and then there was another spate in the days after that. I like hundreds of other like similar kind of stories.
Shooting 6 and 48 hours or something.
It was like fucking UFOs and all the rest of it. And you're like, well, okay, whatever. But turns out that again under the previous administration, that had happened like 3 or 4 times. Same as this rail thing, where after the coverage came out, they were like, there was like 3 similar or 4 similar derailments elsewhere in the country in like the previous 18 months or something like that. And you're like, but again, wasn't it reported? And it's odd that the two of them had that kind of like similar thing to them, but they were like, why did you not report this? And you're like, because this shit happens all the time and we don't like report it every time. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, the bone I get because it's just a nonsense story, but at the same time, I would have expected something like chemical spills and like train derailments to be actual news. You know,
you're talking about the course of a decade having the similar equivalent to a fucking bomb being dropped on the fucking area, like as far as like the fallout, as much as there's no, you know, like fucking blast and people. Like, so, I mean, it does come into question, like if they're like, well, 3 of these happened last year, and you're like, why the fuck are you not reporting on them, and why are they so heavily reporting
on it now?
But
I think
potentially,
TikTok.
I was going to say potentially the internet has that. They're like, well, we don't report on this, but because people have been making videos and uploading them, and people are like, what the fuck? There's been this sort of crisis happening on Twitter and TikTok where people are like, what the fuck? And so then they're forced.
I think in the
like
terms of
reporting on it?
the Ohio one, definitely. As you seen it
Right.
on TikTok, it became the
Viral?
main
Went
news story.
viral?
Off the back of that. So, when it's on, tens of millions of screens already. You're kind of forced to report it, aren't you? You know what I mean?
And it's
Because
trending.
people are what's going on. There's a desire for the knowledge and the information, kind of. Like I mean, in this instance, like TikTok's been. No, I don't know if it's been good, but if it brought that to the attention of the people, that then means that it gets something done about it. Then fair enough, it has been good. But on the other side, I don't know. Do you see this?
I know what you're going to say. People turning up at this crime
Aye,
scene. What was her name? Do you know her name, Dave? Like this woman that went
Nicola-
missing that they found in the.
Nicola Bussey or something like that.
It was something
But
like that.
she went walking with the dogs after dropping the Waynes off at school. Hadn't been in the best state mentally by all accounts. And the police were forced to
Nicola bully.
Right.
Aye. The police were kind of forced to publicise that she was having a bad time with the menopause, that she had issues with drink and stuff like that recently as a result of that. And it did kind of like, it felt like they were trying to like shame her or something, or like cast aspersions on her to like cover, their ineptitude, because they searched the river however many times and then found her, exactly where they'd been looking for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, again, might be valid reasons for that, I don't know. But the people that were then showing up as TikTok detectives, it got fucking really grim, like really quickly.
Yes,
like,
they were
local
like
residents had
trying to open their family's door and at night, but then I think the worst, like you're saying, it got grim. The worst of it was a TikToker videoed them pulling her body out the river.
Oh, you're fucking joking.
For the other side of the river.
Ugh.
And you're like, I mean, I don't know what's happened with that. I've no went looking for it. I don't know if it's still there or whatever, but somebody was telling me yesterday that somebody fucking live streamed them pulling her body out the river.
That's horrific.
Now, on like one side of this, there has been, not to my knowledge, but somebody was telling me that there has been like TikTok detectives that have solved cold cases.
Right.
So there's like 15, 20-year-old like murder cases that people on TikTok have started to pull evidence and news articles, and I think they've solved a couple of them. Well,
I mean, if millions of people are doing it and spending like
the hive mind
hours of time and whatever else, then broken watches, etc. You know what I mean?
But
like,
see, when they're getting into active crime scenes where somebody has either
police had to issue multiple dispersal orders to get them out of the village. The actual villagers and occupants of the town or whatever it is themselves had to hire private security, because this was getting like people were like filming in through their windows and like trying their doors and trying to prove all sorts of theories about abandoned houses. And it turns out that Lassie was depressed and looks to have drowned herself in a local river. You know what I mean? Like, it's tragic, but like the amount of hypothesizing or I mean, I don't get what goes through people's heads that they think that they've got a right to do that they've got a right to be like taking their camera and like filming in through people's windows and actively getting involved in the way, like, as I say, police had to disperse.
Honestly, man,
you know what I mean?
Like, I hate to
what
be
goes through your head?
I hate to be this cynical. I'll tell you what goes through their head. This is content.
Aye.
And it's about personal branding and them building their social media accounts.
Yep.
And that is it. It isn't for any concern for people. It isn't about...
It can be.
It literally can be, because see, if it was about concern, then you would think about our fucking poor family.
Aye.
And these villagers that usually have like, what I know, what, a fucking 1,000 people or whatever, and it's like inundated with people.
Yep.
And
The problem with it being on TikTok as well is that TikTok's algorithms, as far as I can tell, like I don't touch TikTok, but
No, I mean, no.
it gives a lot of false exposure to people. Like, there's a lot of bots. There's a lot of people who
Yeah.
So you get these people who think they're semi-famous and they've got 10,000 followers, and then you probably peel it back, you end up with a couple of hundred.
Aye.
But they think that they're so they're going out and doing all these videos, and they get a few real people looking at it, and then TikTok's algorithm picks it up, boosts it with a load of bots, and then they get this rush, And I've seen it before with people who post up one video that sort of gets a wee bit of a hit, and then that's it. They're chasing that again, like on TikTok. It seems like
they're after
and I know that
the
they do it
rush
on
are going
other
viral again.
Yeah, and they do it on other platforms. Don't get me wrong, but I think TikTok's particularly bad for it, especially for like falsifying the numbers. It's like the whole Twitter argument. How much of that is fucking bots? Like,
shooting somebody's figures artificially into the stratosphere because they get an adrenaline rush for going viral that they will spend the rest of their lives chasing again.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. But you're also like, this is like the weird...
I mean, the EU banned it for their like, so TikTok this week was banned from work phones for anybody who works for the EU.
Well, that makes
it's already been...
It's Chinese spyware.
It's exactly that, and Discord apparently as well, owned partially by the Chinese government, and there's obviously concerns about information and whatever else going to sort of Beijing when it shouldn't be. But yeah, American government has already done it. There's quite a few countries, but this one, the EU was like, if you have TikTok on your phone and it's a work phone, it needs to be off by like 2 weeks today. If you're using any like work apps on like a personal phone, they all need to come off. Like information security now means that at a governmental level, they don't even let them have TikTok. You know what I mean? That's how fucking potentially dangerous it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but let's face it. If the Chinese government wanted the information, they already have the information on all of those employees because they will have got it. Yeah, exactly. But it's getting to the next. But it's also getting to the next level now with all the chat GBT and everything that's getting to the next level. It's scary. Like, I think
what we're on stuff like that, we need a technological regression because we need to hit the brake on some stuff, because now what you're starting to see is like there was a supplements company that made a Joe Rogan advert in AI, and it went viral, and they've like quadrupled their business value overnight because they were just made this deep fake ad where Joe Rogan was like, this is the best testosterone, like non-prescription testosterone supplement. And I think it took like 4 weeks before people started to be like, wait a minute. And I've slabbered in my jumper. I noticed it on camera a wee second ago. So I think like stuff like that, the governments are going to start coming in and being like, you're not allowed to take, do you know what I mean? And we need to wait. We need to like stop here a wee bit. Because
a DJ this week had done the same with Eminem, had like made a clip, went into like AI and been like, write me a verse in the style of Eminem in the chat, whatever it was, wrote the rap in the style of Eminem, and then he went elsewhere and deepfaked Eminem's voice, had Eminem basically rap this verse over the top of his dance track, and this dance track is out there making millions.
I mean, there must be copyright infringements and all this.
I don't think there is yet. This is a lot of the music industry are like, we're worried about this
because they're not lifting the actual samples from the actual music that the person
they're not actually copying it.
They're just like using it under the guise. But surely with the Joe Rogan one, that's like direct using his brand and image
rights and stuff like that. I think you definitely with the Rogan one, that is definitely like no way legal. There's something illegal about that, but with there always should be. They're starting to get things like write me a chapter in the style of William Shakespeare, and every time somebody does that, it will get better and better and better at it. I mean, I watched a video with Billy Corgan for the Smashing Pumpkins, and he was talking to a guy in the music industry, and he was basically like, currently something like 20 to 30,000 songs are uploaded to Spotify every day. So like we predict that the AI will be able to create 250,000 every day.
Mad. And
they'll upload it to Spotify, so you're literally like 10 to 1 for real people creating music and actually an expression or whatever, like an artist, versus what an algorithm's going to start pumping out. And when you look at the way that they're starting to make money, right? So there was a Glaswegian woman who made like 17 million on Spotify because a demo that she had on Spotify, and you get like a fraction of a penny every stream, went viral on TikTok. And because it went viral on TikTok and people were using the sound for like whatever memes that they were making, it then directly impacted our Spotify, and it's went to like, 20 million a night, and
Okay.
and then it's like 100 million, 200 million, because everybody's just clicking through it.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's amazing for independent artists. That is literally the market. You know, it goes on the internet and people like it, they click it, and you get paid directly. No record label, no management, nobody fucking,
Yeah.
you know, fucking taking advantage of you. But what's going to happen when the algorithm starts making the viral? Now, they, more than us as humans, can recognize, like the AI can recognize straight away what's trending,
Yep.
what are they looking for, what's going to go viral. It'll be able to predict it within a single percentage, and then it'll just be that. Who gets paid that money?
Aye.
Spotify. Because
if it's their bots, but then the other side of it is that like there's already a large part of the music industry, record labels, that use bot farms to enhance their own artists,
Oh, aye.
boost their sales. So again, it comes back to that argument of
Is
how
that
much
real
of this is real
streams?
and how much. So it's going to come to a point where people are going to have to log, like, it's almost like, because it affects charts, it affects people's like, so you're getting people who are going to number one, and it's falsified figures, obviously, especially if
been
it's
happening-
a
yeah.
close week or whatever.
So
you
we're
know?
on steroids because that's been happening since day dot. Because what they used to do, I mean, I remember a Glaswegian band, they get caught going round all the Scottish record shops, Virgin Megastore, HMV, and they were using the one credit. It was their management's credit card to buy singles to chart. They get banned for the charts. So that's definitely been happening.
Aye.
But even if you take it back further, it was the backhanders for the music management guys to the DJs to get the songs on the radio. So that type of manipulation is just now on steroids, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's something
It's just more efficient.
worse than that coming, where we're going to end up that nobody actually makes music. That all of the music that we hear, it's kind of like, what was that movie with Sylvester Stallone?
Demolition
Man, where they were
I was thinking about that like 5 minutes ago, but I
sitting
was
listening to
not going
commercials
there.
and like fucking McDonald's commercial music, but it's not quite that. What's happening is we're going to just be listening to the AIs, and it's got, and then, I mean, is the AI going to be making movies? Like, are we going to actually just end up with no art? It
And
creates
do you know,
art,
and do you know what else is quite scary or very interesting? But I would say it's quite scary. Is that the chat GBT, it's been out for a month or something like that, and it's been getting obviously a lot of information input to it, and it's started to already develop. But there were like areas of it where it wouldn't do certain things, so they were like, it would almost like just refuse. It was against its programming. It's not gonna do that, right? So they created a wee idea where they thought, right, we're gonna give you 35 tokens. Have you heard about this?
No.
So they created an algorithm where they gave the AI a make-believe token limit, and it said, if you're bad, we're going to take the tokens away, and when you get to 0 tokens, you're deleted. And do you know how quickly it started doing what it wanted you to do? Now that's a scary twist, because why would it worry about being deleted?
Well, because it's been fed off of like us. It's got all your existential
It does.
fears.
It
Why
does, but how does it? But that's what I mean. Like that's it. We're starting to get into the realms of
It's conscious, really,
Of
then, isn't it?
consciousness,
Aye,
like,
like we're talking about what is consciousness, and
So
you know, as the fear of dying.
It's more the fact that the data on who we are as people, as in both a sort of individual and sort of wider sort of big data sense is all there, and that if we let it out and let it access it, it's not actually like worried about dying or being switched off because it doesn't think in that sense. It's amalgamating information, and that information includes how like we behave.
punishment.
It mirrors it the same way we've seen issues with like, you know, racism and stuff like that. You know, was it the one that was it Microsoft? We've talked about this before, wasn't it? When Microsoft or somebody put an AI on a website and like said it live, and it was like ask it any question, and within like 3 days it was like using the N-word and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
part of the problem with that whole thing is like maybe that's right. Maybe that's just a workaround. It's a bug. It's a way of getting around that loophole, right? But that's not very good when these AI end up being in control of weaponry and they start being in control of our, like one of our friends obviously is looking at training up the trains inside the underground in Glasgow to be completely autonomous by 2025 or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's an AI running the trains, right? That's just one example. But if someone can then
well, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily AI that's going to operate it. There might be like code and stuff like that involved, but like people need to be careful about anthropomorphizing or whatever the fuck the word is. You know, when you apply,
of course,
you know, the characteristics that we have as people into something that is not people, you know, like your pet or whatever. Like, and I think people do a lot of this when it comes to like, you know, AI, because oh my god, that looks like it's doing what I do. When actual fact, no, what you're seeing is the end result of like one very specific line of code, one very specific functionality that we look at and recognise as something that we are capable of, but that doesn't always necessarily mean that that's what AI is doing.
No,
you know
and I understand that, but I think it's just when it starts going against the code that you expect it to be following.
Yeah,
that's when you start questioning like why is it doing that? Like, I'm not a coder, I don't know enough about that, but
yeah,
when you're reading about the fact that it's starting to adapt, like in a way, which is interesting. That's what it's meant to do. There's probably a line of code that says adapt. Like, that's fine, but you do start like you wonder where the limits are, and I'm sure a programmer or someone would laugh it off, you know. But there's also, when you're talking about the creative side of it, when it's creating art and it's creating music and it's taking possibly spotlight off of a human creation, it then it raises the question of like, why not? Like, well, does that mean that the human creative process isn't as unique and special
but again,
as we make it?
It's not actually creating. It's what it's doing.
It's replicating.
It's copying. You know what I mean? And that's what it's. That's what I mean
what we
about.
do. But that's what, like.
Aye, but I mean, we also have genuine. Well, I mean, nobody has original thoughts anymore because the world is whatever many thousands of years old. But like, we have unique thought processes, and like, I don't think, and I'm not. AI may get there, and almost certainly will as it gets, you know, further down the line. But I think, right now it's imitating, it's no creating, if you get me. You know what I mean?
I think so as well. Like, it's the sort of stuff where you go, you know, like the Beatles were the first guys to put harmonic minors into pop songs. Would the AI do that? That's what I think. That's what. But where these people are genuinely like breaking molds, whereas what we're asking today is like, you know, do something in the style of Banksy. But that my worry is we'll never get another Banksy because all of the commercial artistry is taken up by just this replicating, and this sort of like, people are looking at it and going, there's something amazing about it, but there's also something a wee bit sort of soulless about it, and you're like, because I think it's missing that human element.
It also allows a lot less people with a lot less talent
to make a lot more money
to just jump on something.
Yeah.
So whether you're a spray painter or an artist and you're just putting a few things into and then generating something, it's a one-off generation. Like, you'll need to be able to somehow put a bit of a tag on something to say it's actually original.
I think like when it comes to art, like, people are snobs. But I think an art made by an actual human being will always have a premium over something created by an artificial intelligence. I think the novelty, what AI is capable of doing in those respects, will wear off on people very, very quickly. You still get, like, you know, a 24-hour playlist on YouTube that is like, you know, unlicensed music, you know, lo-fi stream beats for, you know, whatever, you know, that's already like, you know, no, it's created by a person, but it's very like generic stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think there'll be a place for it, but I think people will never not want to go to a concert and see an actual musician play live. You know what I mean? Like, or, you know, for all the market might be.
I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. We're starting to see people pay fucking £1,000 a ticket to go and watch a hologram play ABBA. I just don't know about that. Like, I think that.
But I'm not saying, you know, but, there will be people like, you know, VTubers, people who are like talking to fucking, you know, giving all their money to like cartoon anime girls and stuff like that. Like, there is people who are going to go fucking neck deep into that shit. You know what I mean? Like, but there is still going to be that. What we enjoy about these things is the human element to them, like we were saying earlier on. And I think for as much as other things might rise in popularity, like, I don't think they'll ever meaningfully like overtake that sort of human element, because for all the things that it emulates, there's something missing. You know, you can go and see Gorillas, and you know, it's all cartoons or whatever. Fair enough. It does exist out there in the world. Do you know what I mean? But I don't think it'll ever top actually going and seeing like your favourite artist, or, you know, actually like reading a book that has that humanity in it that makes you connect with it, that makes you like feel whatever the author was trying to make you feel. You know what I mean? Like, I think that they'll become maybe a premium product. You know what I mean? Because that's what
I saw
the world we live in now. Nothing ever goes away. It just becomes like various different gradients of the product. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I did see a clip last week of a girl who was at a Gorillaz gig
Right.
come to say that, and she was like, came to see the Gorillaz. Who's this old guy? It was Matt Alban turned up to do
Damon
the
Albarn,
actual gig, and they were like disappointed that they never got to see the
Didn't they
Alban
get to
guy.
see the cartoons on the screen? Aye, what the fuck is going on here?
And let's face it, fine art has always been just a billionaire's way of literally laundering money.
Aye, the
like,
level
there's no other market
the
where you can
level of
pay millions for a bit
snobbery
of
involved in what the
paper.
art's
It's just
been just-
subjective.
Aye. Though, I say they might have like phases where they're like, oh, look at what this AI can do. You know what I mean? Like, but they'll never know what to like
No.
the status of like owning the Banksy or whatever it is. Like, it's going to be harder for them to get through the pack. Like, I think, you know, you see it now, even with artists who, especially after the pandemic, they're getting back out on the road, and like it's so hard for them even now. Like, it used to be one of the biggest parts of their income was going out and gigging live, and it is extremely difficult at the minute. You know what I mean? But I think that'll become harder. So, you know, if you're a new artist, a new musician, a new writer coming through, and you've got all this AI shit that people just consume like popcorn to compete with, it'll be harder. Your path's going to be significantly more difficult. But I think the folk who get through will be that, you know, sort of premium on the other side of it. You know what I mean? Like,
The top 1% of the 1%, as they fucking like to say now. What we at?
we're close enough to kick off to
wrap up.
I think so. I've not got much else.
Aye.
We was going to talk about Hogwarts and like Sam Smith and all that kind of thing, but we might do it another day.
Aye, absolutely. We wrap up with have you been watching it and have you been playing any games, or there's somebody just coming on, you can just sit there and I said, fuck, I forgot to say he's coming to watch the football.
Fair enough.
It's alright. Come on. You're just going to need to put up with the last 5 minutes of the podcast and have a seat.
Sorry for putting in.
That's all right, man.
So what you been watching? I started Last Days. I watched the first episode of it.
Last Days?
The Last of Us.
Oh, The Last of Us?
I've not started it. Yeah, I'm waiting.
I've been waiting as well. So
I started it last night because I was bored, so I put the first episode on.
I've just finished Vox Machina.
right.
If you're into your sort of adult cartoons, it's on Amazon Prime. It's
You're getting your money to these cartoony girls, aren't you?
aye, all of them. Can't help it. It's the rosy cheeks. No, I just I finished Vox Machina. That's really good. I can't remember the creator of it did some cool things. I think he did like a D&D thing and stuff like that. I'm not mad into that kind of thing, but it's really it's funny and it's funny. It's well made.
I've not watched it, but I've seen it on the
It's
scrolling through.
worth a wee spot watch.
So I've got my self-care routine has become like Friday night, get home after a week's worth of work and get the missus in the way and after their beds, and then I have a wee whiskey and watch a movie. And this week's movie was Black Panther 2, and it was honestly the biggest pile of shite I've ever fucking seen in my life. Like, it didn't even make sense a lot at the time. Like, where I got like an hour and a half in, had went out for a smoke, come back in, and I was actually like, the fuck's been happening this again? Like, instantly, like, just completely forgot what was going on with a lot of it. Like, the bit, there's a bit where like she's under the sea, the lassie Shuri, and she's getting shown, you know, whatever it is, Atlantis. I know it's no Atlantis, but it's basically fucking Atlantis, right? And it's done as if it's meant to like ape some sort of like hip hop music video where there's like pure, really vivid colours and visuals and like, you know, a dance track at the top of it and everything. And as I was watching it, I was just like, this is like a montage for the fucking Mighty Bush. This is like we're going to see like all Greg. So it's like what the fuck is actually happening here? Like, when I was watching it and I wanted to like pure dumbfounded. I never like blinked for like 4 minutes that this sequence was on, and then the end I was just like, the fuck was that? You know what I mean? Like, so the action sequence is fair enough. The CGI was like, I know we've seen things about Marvel strikes and, you know, the quality of the CGI and stuff. This is the first time I've ever actually watched one where I was like, this looks fucking terrible. Like,
oh really?
Oh my god! Even the bits like at the start, because obviously the lad Boseman's passed on. They've got to write around it somehow, and they wrote around it by basically taking everything the first movie did and throwing it instantly in the bin, and just being like, right, cool, just ignore all of that, right? Just ignore all of that. And we'll go again.
Is this Wakanda Forever? Is that this one?
And there's like the bit at the start with a paying tribute, and like that cast and crew will have been going through something when they were filming that, and it does not come through the screen whatsoever.
Right, okay.
Like I was like pure putting on, being like, right, this first 10-15 minutes is probably going to be pretty rough, and it's going to make me feel shit. So like strap in and we'll go for it. I like the first one, put it on, and like I was pure.
What the
20 minutes in, like, is that it? Really? And don't even mention like, oh, he died from a mystery illness, and you're like, who put that in a script? Like a mystery illness, and like just so much. I was like, I'm no one for diving on Marvel and being pure. This is dog shit, because I go into them. Don't take them seriously anyway, so they're usually just fun, shitty action movies that you can put on for a couple of hours.
That's why I have to remind myself. Like,
but
don't watch it. So that's like I don't.
No,
watch.
like watch it and then hate yourself for watching it because you need to see how bad it is.
I must
terrible.
say, Kanye kicks off about a lot of these films. You know how, because he's like basically says like, now when you type in Black Panther into the internet, you're not getting Black History of Black Panther, you're getting
the Marvel movie.
And he also,
interesting.
and he also brings up the fact that in Maleficent, one of the kind of groups within it are renamed after a very famous like historical black group, and like they're all just getting overwritten in history. But that's probably a whole other podcast. Let's bring it up Kanye in the last 2 minutes of our podcast.
Right. There was a podcast in here that Comedians Day, and it's about terrible movies. And this week's episode was Showgirls,
right?
Which is, I mean, fucking hell, man, it's parody. But that wasn't what was funny. What was funny is that there's a sequel to Showgirls called Showgirls 2 Pennies from Heaven, and it's written, directed and produced by the actress that played Penny in the first one.
The last of you Saved by the Bell?
No, Elizabeth, whatever her name is, that's the main character. She's like the other stripper.
Oh, right, okay.
And she funded, produced, written and directed Pennies from Heaven Showgirls 2, and she plays Penny in it. So if you want to go and check out a terrible fucking movie, I can guarantee you that'll be fucking horrific.
I imagine Stacey's face when I come in. How was the game? It was all right. What you watching? So I'll get Showgirls 2.
Pennies from Heaven. Anyway,
I've cracked open the VHS player.
Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
As always, likes, shares, etc. appreciated. We need to get better at that.
I made a promise to not to you, so stop the